Hello and welcome to another video. So today's video, as suggested in my previous video, is going to have a look at saddles and saddle comfort and saddle soreness. One of the plagues of my life over the last 12 months or so has been ongoing saddle soreness. And one thing that I found as somebody with a vagina is that there's very ambiguous information out there, and what there is of it isn't very much. So what I thought I would do is try and make a video for other people with vaginas, clitoris, labia, and be specific using the proper terminology, so that there isn't this ambiguity. One of the things that I was struggling with is in the information that I did find, when people are referring to their genitalia as down there, down below in the nether regions, you know, it's not helpful. It's not helpful, you know, to look at when you want to know specifically, you know, what does that feel like? Is it rubbing? Is it chafing? Is it pressure and numbness? Is it actually on the genitals? Whereabouts on your genitals is it? Is it sad? You know, is it pain and numbness in your sit bones? Is it more kind of rectal numbness? It sounds like between people, for the sake of making this kind of easy and binary, we refer to cisgender men and cisgender women. So for men, I think the pain tends to be, or the discomfort tends to be kind of more numbness, and a cutout largely helps with that. And for women, I think because of the variety in our anatomy, the way it kind of shape and size and how it's laid out varies a lot from person to person, and I think that makes it all the more hard for us to sort of resolve the issue. So the issue kind of started more for me when I bought a gravel specific bike. So previous to that, I just had a bog standard hybrid with a solid saddle on it. I wasn't ever really aware of saddle soreness on that. I wasn't doing tons and tons of riding. I had done over time, done quite a bit of riding. I'd done a couple of sportives and you know, just kind of leisure riding really. But when we got into lockdown, I got bored of running all the time. I wanted to be able to get a little bit further away from the house, you know, when we weren't allowed to go out in cars and stuff. So my daily exercise became cycling, because I could go out and go a bit further, and consequently my single ride distance was longer, but also over the course of a week my cumulative mileage became more. So I think that's why, you know, why it's become more of a problem more recently. So the pain and discomfort that I have experienced has been very specific. So I have had I think probably chafing in the inner labia. So I suspect that is down to when the saddle nose is quite long, that as I'm kind of pedaling along, because I have quite a lot of tissue at the front, that it's in the way and it's rubbing. I've also had some soreness and what feels like kind of raised bumps actually inside the sort of labia, more in the kind of vagina area, to the degree where I thought there might be a medical problem. So I did go to my doctor and get that checked out just to make sure it wasn't that. I have also looked at my clothing. I've because I kind of get into things, and I've got a low boredom threshold, and so I might do something for a couple of months and then never go back to it, and I didn't want to invest lots of money in expensive things if basically I wasn't going to stay interested in it. So to start with, I've had some quite cheap clothing, and basically I think the chamois haven't been great, and because I've not had bibs, I've just had sort of waist height things. There's probably been more movement, so I wanted to eradicate that as one of the possibilities of the problem. So I bought a couple of decent pairs of bib tights, and they're well fitting. The chamois is really nice. It's all new, so I know pretty certain that that's not the issue. And I know that people will probably be suggesting to go and get a bike fit, and that is something that I'd consider doing at some point. But I think at this stage I want to try and eradicate some of the issues myself, and if it's persistent and it feels like I've tried everything, then I'll go and maybe look at whether I could get like a saddle mapping thing done, pressure mapping, and a bike fit. So first one that I'm going to look at is, this is the Boardman ADV. I don't know whether you can see that clearly. So this is clearly a solid saddle, there's no cutout in it. This is the saddle that came fitted on my Boardman ADV women's specific bike. I don't know whether it's a women's specific saddle, but that it's a women's specific bike. I think more for the geometry than the actual, there's no drop bar or anything, like the top tube is straight. But yeah, there's nothing special about it. There's no real recess or anything in the top there. Quite a long nosed saddle as well. Luckily it does fit my sit bones. It wasn't something that I measured before I got it, but I have measured since, and that does seem to be the right kind of width for me. So that is something you'll need to check as well if you're looking at investing in a saddle. So that's the one. That's the Boardman that came with it. So I bought the bike in, I think I actually brought it home at the beginning of October 2020, and by February I'd had enough of the discomfort and I'd swapped out to this. So this is the Bontrager Verse Comp, and I bought that new from, I think it was, I can't remember which website I got that from actually, but it was £50, and as you can see it's got the centre cutout. So it's the same width as my Boardman across the sit bones. It's the same length actually, so it's another long nosed saddle, and there's quite a long but also quite a severe cutout. So I mean, I don't know whether you can sort of see in terms of the channel itself, it's not quite a right angle, but because the seat is very firm, it's not very forgiving once you're kind of tissues on that. So I rode this from February this year, 2021, through to, would it be October? I think I maybe had enough and decided to start having a mess about with something else. So it instantly did feel better than the Boardman. So I felt like this might be the answer to the issue. But having continued to cycle more in terms of distance in single rides and accumulative mileage throughout the course of the week, I started experiencing the same problems in the same areas. So inner labia and kind of more further round in the kind of entrance to the vagina area. And I think what I kind of came to the conclusion of, I ditched my padded shorts one day and just wore some running tights, just so I could kind of really feel where my body was making contact with the saddle, because I thought if you're wearing lots of padding, it's kind of difficult to feel really. And I've also tried like different chafing cream as well, just to see if that helped. And I think what I found was, because you can obviously put your hand up and feel your tissue through the underneath, so I could sort of try and feel where my body was kind of pushing through and what was happening. I came to the conclusion that because this starts quite far back, that actually this is giving pressure relief around your rectum area, and that the front bit around here, probably the kind of front half, is the part that is giving you more relief in the kind of vaginal and clitoris and labia area. And so I thought maybe that channel is just too shallow and too narrow, and that everything's kind of being crushed and stuffed in there. So, not wanting to spend loads of money again, I decided to have a look on eBay for something with a wide cutout, and I got this. So this is the Celitalia Lady, just in case there was any doubt. And as you can see, that's got quite a big cutout. So if you compare the two, you can see that that's quite significant. Actually, in terms of the length of the cutout, there's probably not an awful lot in it, but the Celitalia is wider. So I put this on, and I didn't ride very far at all. I mean, it became clear pretty much in the first few miles that this was not going to be a comfortable saddle. it's more rounded, so I think your kind of sit bones aren't as supported, or you need a broader seat for them to be more supported. And it still felt like my tissue at the front was being crushed. So I think what was happening basically, because it comes to a close and it's not an open-nosed saddle, that everything is just kind of crammed through, and particularly if you're going down into a more aggressive position and you're leaning forward and things are moving, or you're sliding forward at all, yeah, everything's just kind of getting bunched up and crushed. So I did a bit of research on, like specifically searching for kind of wide cutouts, and I think that's how it came up. That, or was it I think it was an article that I saw come up, or it might have been a GCN Tech video that was talking about open split-nosed saddles. So I had a look online, and it appears that there's one manufacturer, ISM. I think they have the patent for it, which is why they are the only people that seem to make it. So I thought maybe that is going to be the thing to try. So I think it was a GCN Tech thing, and what they were saying is, particularly for women who have got a larger distribution of tissue at the front in your labia and clitoral region, that sometimes you just have to get rid of the nose altogether. There's still not a lot of research and investment in women's saddles by the sound of it, or like women's specific saddles. So it's still an area where there's development happening, which is great. But I think somebody needs to step up and speed up, because there are a lot of women who are very uncomfortable. Looking at a lot of the bike forums that I'm in on Facebook, it's a common question that women are getting uncomfortable. I mean, men are obviously getting uncomfortable as well, but I think the areas are different and solutions are different, because we've got very different anatomy. So yeah, we'll have a look at the ISM, and hopefully we've found the solution and the resolution with that one. So I've done a couple of 100 miles on that one now, and it does feel like I'm still sort of tweaking and getting my riding position comfortable, but it does feel like the specific issues with the chafing in those areas that I was getting with all the other saddles does seem to have resolved at the moment. So fingers crossed that this is the one. So this, as you'll have seen in my other videos now, is the ISM PR 3.0. So it's got the hook at the back to hang it, because it is a tri-saddle. Easy enough to fit. It's normal kind of width rails. Looks very strange, and it does take a little bit of getting used to the seating position. When I read the card that it was mounted on, it said that they've eliminated the nose, so this isn't kind of really classed as a nose. You'd be kind of sitting more further forward on this. So because the cutout doesn't come to a close, there's no pressure with your tissue sort of being forced into something that's coming to a close. So I have found with this, I've done a few 100 miles on it now, I have not had the same problems at all. I'm still getting used to the position. There still are some issues to iron out, but I'm not getting that pain and chafing in the areas that I was getting it before. So that's it. That's today's video. If anybody has any suggestions, links to any articles or videos that they think might be useful for other people to watch, or for me to have a look at as well, feel free to comment. If you found this video useful, please like, comment, subscribe, share. It'd be really much appreciated. Thank you.